If getting a job in today's market seems impossible and you're feeling like employers' requirements are completely out of touch, you're actually not alone. And there's actually some proof to back it up. There's a thing called hidden job requirements, and in this video, I want to break them down for you. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Brian, and I'm the founder of A Life After Layoff, and I'm a corporate recruiter with over 20 years of experience interviewing and hiring thousands of people into some of the world's most well-known and well-respected companies. And I've made it my mission to demystify how careers and hiring works at most major corporations. So if this kind of content interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You may also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. And if you're tired of employers holding all of the cards and producing these job postings that are absolutely ridiculous, then you need to reclaim control in your career. And if you're not sure how to do that, you're in luck because I created a free webinar to teach you exactly how. And you can get started by visiting my website, alifeafterlayoff.com, or check the video description below. So I was perusing the internet like I often do, and I came across this interesting posting. Apparently, this recruiter was engaging with a technical candidate, I'm assuming for some sort of a software development role. And this recruiter apparently accidentally emailed their secret internal selection guidelines. These are guidelines that are provided by the hiring authorities at the company, and this is usually the hiring manager. So this is what the post says. It says, the recruiter accidentally emailed me with her secret internal selection guidelines. I didn't understand what was going on at first, but then it dawned on me. The sheer pretentiousness and elitism kind of pissed me off, not gonna lie. I think we probably all felt this way, even if we couldn't put a thumb on what it was. It says, I am somebody who meets a lot of these criteria, which is why the recruiter contacted me, but it still pisses me off. What we are looking for is referred to at the end of the internal client memo to the recruiter. So this is not to the job candidate. And the public posting obviously didn't look like this. So they wanted to share what this posting looked like. So let's just clarify a couple things really quickly here. The hiring manager comes up with this list and then shares it with the recruiter at the point of the job requisition being open for recruitment. So the recruiter and the hiring manager sit down in a room together. They go through the list of must-haves and nice-to-haves. And then there's questions around, is there anything that you don't want to see? Is there anything that you do want to see? And the hiring manager will chime in with their wish list. Now there's requirements and then there's preferreds. The requirements are the must-haves. They're usually pretty obvious things like total number of years of experience, which there is a little bit of ambiguity there, but it's often like the degree requirement will sometimes be there. Usually to be base or core experience. If you don't have core experience in something like, if you don't know how to develop software, then you're probably not going to get a job as a software developer. But it's usually more realistic, I'll just say. The preferreds is where it gets a little bit more loose with the requirement. And so this is where you can read into it as this is hiring manager bias. So oftentimes people will get really mad at recruiters because they think that the recruiter is the one that actually has the bias, when oftentimes it's actually the hiring manager or the team who is in charge of hiring that has these biases. But nonetheless, the recruiter then takes those requirements or those biases and then goes to market. No, a good recruiter should be pushing back on the hiring manager and saying like, hey, these aren't realistic, or are we really sure about these things? Because it's going to really eliminate a lot of good candidates. Oftentimes, though, that doesn't happen, especially if you're working with a more junior recruiter who doesn't really know the job profiles or knows the market very well. So that's potentially what the case is here, but I obviously don't know who this recruiter is. But let's take a look at what this job posting is. So this is what we're looking for, and I would call this looks like notes coming from their their intake call. Basically is what it's called, an intake, where you sit down with the hiring manager. You get the job requisition assigned to you. You sit down with the hiring manager. You go through all the requirements, and this is where they give you this feedback. In this case, it may have been a third-party headhunter who received these requirements because it says the end client internal memo. But nonetheless, both the internal recruiter at the company and a third-party headhunter would get the same stuff. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to break for this video sponsor, Delete Me. Now, if you are applying to different jobs, you probably come across postings just like the one we're talking about in this video that have ridiculous requirements, but that's not where the ridiculousness ends. The more you apply, the more your personal information gets sent out to a variety of companies. And they will often use this personal information in order to conduct background checks and other things to verify your employment. The problem is that data is often shared with third parties like data brokers, and they resell your information and it ends up all over the internet. So if you're getting a lot of robocalls or a lot of spam email, that's probably an indicator that your information has been compromised somewhere along the line. But fortunately, there is a service that is here to help. Delete Me offers a solution where they scan the internet looking for instances where your personal information is showing up on public directories. And then they take proactive steps to automatically scrub it for you. It works behind the scenes 24 hours a day, always looking for new instances where your personal information may be reappearing, and they automatically opt you out of them. And getting signed up is really easy. You have to fill out a little questionnaire so that they know what it is that they're looking for, and they will immediately get to work scanning the internet on your behalf. And if you'd like to get started, they've been very gracious to offer a 20% off discount if you use the code layoff at signup. I will leave a link in the video description below. So what are they looking for? Well, this hiring manager is looking for a university graduate with a bachelor's or master's degree in computer science. Now, it has to be from a top program, like MIT, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, Berkeley, Caltech, University of Illinois, University of Waterloo. So they need the cream of the crop, the best of the best, because if you haven't gone to one of these schools, you're not a capable software developer. We all know that. So they have to be from a top program. And I don't know how they define top program. If you come from, a Harvard or something like that, I don't even know if they have a CS program, but if you come from like another Ivy League type school, are they going to consider you? Or is it only just this list? Now, if you didn't go to one of these top schools, there is a possibility that they would make a special exception for a couple of other schools if you were a 4.0 graduate. Then you need to have 4 to 10 years of experience developing software. If you're a genius who knows how to code super quantum computers, but you only have 2 years of experience, you will absolutely not be a good fit for this role. Has to be 4 to 10 years of experience. Then you have to have expertise in modern JavaScript, so TypeScript, Node.js, React.js, and sometimes modern texts like Kotlin, and knowledge of AI and machine learning and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have a breadth of experience that's pretty wide. You're going to need to have longevity in role. So if you are a job hopper, you are not a fit. We have to see 2 years plus in each role. If you were unfortunate enough to work at a major corporation or a startup, and the startup lost their funding and the company closed and you lost your job just to like everybody else in your department or in your organization, you are not going to be a good fit for this job. They also need to have significant experience in notable startups, such as those backed by combiners, Sequoia Capital, who probably goes in and lays people off. Our clients will not hire anybody who's worked for large companies only. Even if that large company was Google or Facebook, if those large companies are all they have, they will be rejected. They do not understand how it is to code in a startup organization. They will be completely in over their head if they have Google experience. Bar none, have to reject them. Now we have to have diversity hires as a bonus, so Black, female, etc. And you have to be a U.S. citizen, a U.S. permanent resident, green card holder, or a Canadian citizen. Absolutely no visa sponsorships. So you cannot come from another country. You have to be a permanent resident, a citizen, or eligible to work in the United States. That actually is fairly common. I know I'm being kind of sarcastic here, but that one actually is fairly common. And bonus points for being a founding engineer or having founder experience. So they need somebody that's actually started up their own tech firm and has gone to market and it's a founder. So here's where it gets really interesting. This is what to avoid. The hiring manager doesn't want to see visa candidates. We've already talked about that. But in addition to that, they also don't want to see people who are career contractors. So if you're a C2C candidate, you are absolutely not going to be a fit. They need somebody that has worked permanently at these companies. And if you have any contract work in your background, you can forget about it. We also want to see those job hoppers. So those frequent short stints and roles. We talked about that already. Good luck if you ever get laid off or you happen to lose your job for whatever reason. You happen to be in a toxic workplace. You cannot have hopped jobs at any point in your career. They also want to avoid graduates of coding boot camps, including Full Stack Academy, Hack Reactor. So if you came from a coding boot camp, forget about it. You're not able to code. You have to come from a major top tier computer science Ivy League school for them to consider you. And if you have a consulting background, you worked at an IT software development firm instead of actually at a company that produces products directly. You are not going to be a fit. We would not consider you because you do not have the competency to launch whatever product they have. And if you have experience that's just limited to big companies like Uber, Intel, etc., you are not going to be a fit unless you have paired it with startup experience. This is crucial. We will never consider a candidate who has alpha experience only. They have to have startup experience. And then, of course, fake profiles. Make sure that you screen your candidates properly, as there is fake scam profiles all over the IT world. And unfortunately, this actually is true. There's a lot of fake scam, especially with AI and AI appliers, like these mass appliers and ChatGPT resumes and all this stuff. We are indeed seeing an increase in fake profiles. But nonetheless, they have to make sure that they do screen. I mean, this is like base level stuff for a recruiter. If they're not screening for fake profiles, then I don't even know why they're having to put that in there. It gets even better. It says, candidates who have ever worked at the following companies are not the right fit and will never be hired. In other words, they are scarlet lettered. They are blacklisted from ever working for this company. Intel, Cisco, HP, Tata, any of these other companies, InfoSystems, Dell, etc. If you work for one of these companies, you're not going to be the right fit. So you can forget about it if you've ever been so unfortunate to have worked for one of these types of companies. That's the list of criteria that this hiring manager has set forth. So not only do you have to match the job posting, which they didn't provide, but this is actually their secondary or hidden requirements. Now, of course, I say this a little tongue in cheek and I'm exaggerating and being overly dramatic for the sake of this video. But nonetheless, that is what hiring managers in some of these corporations are looking for. So when you are frustrated with the requirements that these hiring managers have, you're probably pretty founded in it. You're justified for feeling that way because this is ridiculous. And unfortunately for this poor recruiter, every line that you go through on this wish list makes their candidate pool that much more difficult. I truly hope that this recruiter pushed back on this hiring team or just dropped them as a client, because this is not a company that I would want to recruit for. Now, obviously, this is a one-off. We haven't seen the job posting. We don't know any more detail about it. But unfortunately, I would say that this is not that far off from reality. This is honestly how a lot of companies recruit. They have these requirements that are hidden, that if they have this experience, then they can't have that experience. If they have this company, then we won't consider them for this role. And a lot of times it's going to be stuff that you'll never know about. It won't be listed on the job posting. The fortunate thing is this one is extreme. I've not seen too many hiring managers who have been this picky, and a good recruiter would be pushing back on this and saying this is not realistic at all. If you're applying for jobs and you're getting frustrated, what I will just say is it's them and not you. Just do your best, present yourself with the cleanest, most direct resume that you can. Sprinkle in some targeted networking, maybe put up a GitHub or something to show your fit if you can, if you're in that job type that you can do that, or maybe create a portfolio, create a simple website just to show that you are a potentially good fit. But there's going to be hiring managers out there that are not realistic. And unfortunately, this is what you're up against. It's just not worth losing sleep over this kind of stuff. I would just be on to the next one. So unfortunately, I can confirm that there are indeed some companies out there who have ridiculous wish lists that are not at all realistic. And in fact, these companies are probably still recruiting these positions to date because they'll never find a qualified candidate. But if you're somebody that's struggling, keeps on finding these job postings, you can do something about it. You can just not apply for those jobs, because these companies will have to adjust their approach if nobody's applying and they have no candidates to pull from. So in this case, the best offense is a good defense, and not subjecting yourself to these types of rules to begin with. And that's why reclaiming control in your career is so important. And if you need a little bit more help in your job search, check out alifeafterlayoff.com, because I give you tips, tricks, ideas, suggestions, all from an insider's perspective. There's a ton of free content and articles over there. And I also offer some of my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses, which you can check out. And if you're really struggling and you want some more private one-on-one help, I do offer some limited one-on-one coaching, and you can reach me through my website for that as well. Anyway, good luck on your job search. Avoid these low quality employers, because you only give them power if you apply to their jobs. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.